So, to begin, tell me a little bit about this event that you guys are hosting this weekend.
This event.
Yeah, this conference.
So, this conference, a little bit about it. Let's see. Casa started about 30 months ago, and in the process of starting about 30 months ago, we started for the purpose of bringing on agents to help them pay for fertility in the beginning, because my wife and I couldn't have kids. So a lot of people think, when they see My Mini Casa, they all think that it's about miniature homes. And it was never about miniature homes in the beginning. It was literally my wife and I wanted kids. We couldn't have kids. So I sold containers on the side of my full-time job. And through that process, I raised enough money to pay for fertility, because in corporate America, they didn't pay for it. And so we raised the money in about 6 months. Well, in the process of having kids and going through that, like, people with infertility, I really I feel for you. You know, I had to give my wife shots in the stomach just to have kids. You know, we were on Forbrera and all these different shots. We had to do the trigger shot. Our first 6 attempts in having kids, we failed, and we did a IUI versus IVF, because my wife has a tilted uterus as it is, and there was no guarantee at $13,000 for IVF. So we went IUI. The first one, we were just hoping to have kids in a normal way, and ultimately I couldn't have the kids. It wasn't my wife. I have a syndrome called Klinefelter syndrome, so I'm a mutant in a way. I always like to say that because the X-Men. But anyways, I'm XXY, 47 chromosomes, and so I still wanted my wife, who dealt with all the emotions and the tears and everything else, to be able to have a kid. So we picked out a sperm donor on the internet. Went through this process. Man, do they get you? They're so smart. Literally, it's like $670 for a sperm, and they make you emotionally attached in the process. It's like they're the greatest salespeople there is. And so our first procedure was about $4,200, and we missed attempt. And then we had about 6 more. We got the cost down a little bit, and we had 6 more. And I remember sitting with the doctor one day, and he's like, I'm like, man, I'm going to go through adoption, and I just can't do this. So we started foster and adoption, just trying to have kids. And one day, out of the blue, the doctor calls us in. We go meet with him, and he's like, well, I could give you a 45% increased chance for $400. And I'm like, okay, well, what is that exactly? He's like, well, we would just do a ultrasound when we do the injection. And I'm just like, okay. And he's like, I literally said, are you dumb? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, who wouldn't take that 45% for $415? He's like, well, there's a high probability of having multiples. I said, so 2 for 1. So anyway, we decided to try some more. We tried 2 more times. She miscarried on her first attempt, and then she miscarried again with a D&C, so pretty hard stuff to go through. But we stuck with it, and we had our first boy. His name's Jaden, beautiful kid. Love him to death. And then we had 2 twins. And so My Mini Casa is so many cool things that just became and constructed along the way, and everything else. We did all these things, and we just learned as we went, and man, it was crazy. And so we get pregnant successfully, and my wife wants to have more, or wants to help other people, because when you go through all these things, where do you go? You reach out to Facebook and social media and all these groups and helps and platforms, and I'm glad she did. I didn't. I dealt with it internally and emotionally and everything else, and I just became a workaholic more than anything. Is this a good thing? Probably not, but this is really how it came about. And so, in the process, it's just it's interesting, because finally we're successful, and then she's like, well, can you help some other people who are struggling with this too? And so a need for help immediately happened. We then taught 2 more people how to do it that are also, for a while, they were our biggest competitors. They don't do the business anymore, or they work with us now, which is awesome. So, start into it. So the big thing with this is everybody thinks that My Mini Casa is homes. Everybody asks us all the time, do you do homes? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it wasn't until I met a gentleman about 24 weeks ago at a thing called the Brilliant Minds Group. We were talking about the inland poor, and I asked him a question, hey, where do you sell commercial real estate? And everybody always says they'll refer me out somewhere, and this guy said, I'll sell you commercial real estate everywhere. And I'm just like, who are you again? So we were walking out to the parking lot, and he was telling me